Hello, everybody. This is Ed Keay-Smith from the Business Marketing Show, here with my co-host, Brendan Tully, and our special guest on the show, Alba Gomez, from albagomez.com.au, here to discuss personal branding. Thank you very much, Alba, for being on the show. And hello, Brendan.
Hi, Ed.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. So, Alba, I was just reflecting today when we actually met, and we bumped into each other at a networking event about a week or so ago. And it was back in 2009. And I think I think that was just around the time you were starting this business, your personal branding consulting business. And you've done very well. I'm seeing you all over the place in social media, coverage on different TV networks and being interviewed left, right and centre. So I thought it's probably about time you came on our podcast and had a chat to us, because you've got a fascinating background of what led you up to what you're doing today. And what you have done as a career in the past really is not related in any way, shape or form, in my opinion, to what you're doing now. I mean, everything leads and builds up to what you do in life, but coming from the background, which I'll let you discuss, is quite fascinating. So you are living in Perth, correct, at the moment? That's where you spend the majority of your time. But
Yes.
That is not where you came from originally. You have come from a place far, far away. So give us a bit of a backstory about where you're from.
Sure. Okay. So I am Colombian, proud Colombian. Obviously, my accent gives me away within 2 seconds.
Uh-huh.
Even after being for 14 years here, I carry it with me. So I came to Australia following love. So I came here with my ex-husband on an adventure to learn English. I could not speak any English when I came here. So that was quite the experience, coming into a place that is completely different, culturally speaking, where you cannot communicate, when you go from being an independent woman to learn the language. So back in Colombia, I graduated as a production engineer in 2000 and had the opportunity to work for 14 years as an engineer, both in Colombia and in Australia. So when I came here, my ultimate goal was to do that. So I'm an engineer. I'm going to be all my life working doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go and learn English, get recognized as an engineer and work like that in Australia. So I did that. And I got my job here and it was a great experience. I managed to get an excellent position as a manager of a division that was created for me in a Japanese company. The exposure was great, the learning, the traveling. However, a few years after, I started feeling like I have lost my passion for what I was doing. And being a very passionate Colombian woman, I thought I need to follow. And my heart that is telling me I need to change and do something that really wakes me up feeling like I am living my life on purpose. So I went into this deep looking into what is it, who am I, what are my strengths, what I have to share, what is my story. And that led me to start my image consultancy business 9 years ago. That it was around the time we actually met, which is unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was it. Like, I started working as an image consultant, and the reason I started working with image was because as a kid growing up, I had this absolute passion, love, and interest in everything that was related to how you come across to people visually, and not just that, but your personality, your body language, your communications. So that's something that I started studying just for fun. Everything related to image, everything related to body language and communications. It was just like a hobby, but it was never a possibility of anything. But when I moved to Australia, and I had the opportunity to see that in regards to Colombia, Australia is so much free and open-minded. So you actually can do anything. And I didn't have my society of my family to tell me anymore what to do. So I just took a leap of faith and set up a business doing something that I was very passionate about. And the business has evolved and transformed completely as I have grown, which led me to focus more on the personal branding, because it actually allows me to have a more holistic approach to how an individual comes across, is seen, as perceived, but not only that, how an individual see themselves, which affects completely everything. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
That's a pretty impressive leap from being an engineer to doing what you're doing now. And I think there's probably a lot of people wondering how you made that step. Was it progressive? Did you all just decide, cut it off and not be an engineer anymore and go full time? Or did you start doing it over a period of time and then swapped one for the other?
Yeah, well, my intention was to cut completely. So I went into my boss office and said, this is it. I'm done. I'm not working anymore here. And he wouldn't take my resignation.
Oh.
So he's like, no way. You cannot leave. Like, as I said, I have been assigned a position that was created just for me. It had a lot of responsibility. So I kind of understood where he was coming from. So we negotiated that I was going to go into a transition process. So I went to 3 days straight away. Then I moved into 1 day and then I left, which actually ended up working pretty good because this Colombian woman who was an engineer had not a clue of how to run a business in Australia. I didn't know many people. I'm just an employee. I've never done any business. So it worked out really good because I then started working with a coach who guided me, attending all these seminars and training. That's how we met. And I just started developing my business on the side as I just did what I felt right to me with the company who had given me so much.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so you were in the position of power because you held all the bargaining chips.
Yes.
So probably the transitional way you did it worked out best for everybody. But I think the fact that the boss said, no, you can't leave, you're too important, is great. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who aren't in that position, and the boss would probably say, okay, see you later. So that's fantastic. Now, do you have any family members at all from Colombia here in Australia, or is it only you?
No, it was only me. And by the time all this happened, I was going through divorce with my ex-husband, who was the only person I knew here. So challenging doesn't even begin to describe it. That was probably, I always remember those times of my life as the most difficult periods, but then also the ones that allow me to have so much growth and to actually the beginning of creating the life I have now that is completely different and completely improved. So yeah, it was just me and it was hard. Yeah,
no doubt. So Brendan, because you haven't met Alba before, this is all coming to you fresh. What thoughts are coming into your head at the moment for questions for Alba?
Why Perth? Was there a particular reason, or that was just a job opportunity? Or
my ex-husband so the story there is that when we met, we were dating, and he was living in Japan doing a PhD. He's a dentist, and he had a job offer in Australia. And he wanted to live in Australia. He's like, Australia, I love Australia. So when we met, he was already moving here to Perth. So I'm like, of course, I'll go with you and I'll learn English. What can happen? I'll just see how it goes. So that was it.
Threw caution to the wind.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in love, and I wanted just to do something different. So
fantastic.
Here I am.
So I'm going to make some assumptions here, and you can correct me, which I'm sure Brendan will have a good laugh at. But I from what I've seen, from what the work you've done, you're probably dealing with a higher percentage of women than men. Would that be a correct guess?
I decided that to be it.
Okay.
So through my business, I started working with both men and women. I also work with corporate and do training, but I did notice I had like a 70% women, 30% men.
Okay.
And then I went speaking to both is causing me a little bit of difficulties when you're communicating through your newsletters and your website. So I made a decision, and also coming from my story of how much as a woman, I was dictated by my society and my family and how a woman can do or not do. I just started discovering that there was a bigger calling towards talking to women. So I did the swap and went women only. So I talk to women. I do work with men, but my language is women.
Yeah, and that makes sense because that way you can really dig down deep and focus on that particular area and not get sidetracked by a couple of guys like us. I'm pointing down at Brendan because he's below me on the screen. But, what can you do with us, really? I mean, you you got to start somewhere that's decent. So, you know, women are always up a level on presentation skills compared to men, in my opinion. So, look, I do my best.
Not necessarily. And remember, this is not just about your image. Your image is just an element, and it's probably just 20% of it.
Yeah. So, okay.
There's a lot to be done with men too.
that's a good segue, because that was a question I was going to ask you. So, what percentage of the work you do is focused externally compared to internally? And you were saying it's about 20%. So, what is it that you work on with your clientele for the inside, the mindset, the way they think about themselves and their attitude?
Absolutely. So through my experience, as I said, I started working with the image, which I love and I truly believe can completely change so much. But then I started realizing that there was a big disconnect. As in my personal story, growing up as a kid who was bullied and was not super lack of confidence and scared and fearful and feeling out of place, I developed an obsession with looking perfect on the outside. That didn't make me feel any more appropriate or confident or successful at all. So I kind of started doing that with my clients, and I started feeling, this is kind of like what happened to me. And in my personal story, I realized very soon that I needed to connect myself, feel confident from the inside out, and then the image was the icing. So then I developed a 7-pillar system, probably 4 years ago, when I actually work in all the areas, which start with your mindset and your essence. So you're actually really remembering who you are under all those labels. Know your roles, like what is the essence of you? What are your strengths? What is your weakness? What is your story? What makes you unique? What are your life and professional goals, and how you live in your life? Because developing your personal brand is not only about getting yourself known and recognized. For me, it's a way of living. It's actually getting yourself to live on purpose.
Yeah.
And creating a business, a career, or a life that is in full alignment with what you want to create.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, because there seems to be, in my opinion, a huge disconnect, particularly with the younger people of the world with social media, who seem to be extremely focused on the external. The selfie is the classic example of that. Has just become a completely over the top thing, in my opinion, that everyone's taking selfie. So there seems to be a lot of external focus, and I may be wrong, but maybe you can give some views on that.
Yeah, it's like I guess coming from a Latin culture where image is so important to the point of obsession, I get me also realize, like every single woman looks so perfect. Like it is this perfection outside and is this emptiness inside. So ages ago, before I moved to Australia, I started feeling that there's something so big, so missing, and everyone looks so perfect and so happy, but they're not at all. And that's when I started thinking, that's exactly how I feel and how I look. I was one of them too. So that's when I started realizing life is so much more than looking perfect on the outside. We need to live and feel and look great from the inside out. So that's when I started developing this system as part, as I said, is my own personal experience and seeing it with people. Like, you can be wearing the most beautiful suit, have the most perfect makeup, or you guys having the greatest. That's not going to make you happy. You need to feel good. You need to be confident. You need to know who you are. You need to understand where you're going. So that is absolutely 100% truth. Obviously, we all want to look good. But if we just do that element, we're going to be falling so short in actually creating the success or happiness we want.
Yeah, exceptionally good points. And you see that a lot now, I think. And working on the internal stuff is sometimes harder working on the external stuff.
It is harder.
So it's like you can sort of make yourself look good from the outside, but reflecting on what's actually really happening is critical for the inside. So how do you go about finding your clients? What are your marketing strategies that you're using to develop your business and grow that? Yeah.
And just before, so you know, because I didn't finish. So just quickly, I do that mindset and inner stuff. Then I move into the elements that I call sharing who you are. That is your magnetic personality and your communication skills from a body language point of view. Mm-hmm. And then the system ends with the image side. So it's got like those three elements: the inner, the sharing who you are and communicating, and then the image side. And when you bring all those elements together, you have created an authentic and unique personal brand that communicates your most empowered version of you, sort of, to say it like that.
Okay, fantastic.
So how I go about promoting my business. So I guess creating a profile in the media has been, let's say, one of the ways. So getting myself out there in a bigger scale and having people just to come through my website and inquire about what I do. I do a lot of speaking. So through speaking, I do trainings for big events or for companies. So through that, I get clients. I do a little bit of networking, very little these days. Like the event that we met is the only one I'm doing at the moment. And then I do use Facebook ads. And obviously Instagram, Facebook, videos on YouTube, and LinkedIn. So it's a little bit of everything.
Okay. And do you have a YouTube channel that you run yourself and put a lot of content on?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
So I'm
not as active as I could, I guess, but yes, I do have one, and I have videos there.
We could all say that. What are your reflections on that, Brendan?
Or what? Say that again.
In terms of the social media side of things and YouTube.
What's your question, Ed?
My question.
I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah. So in terms of what Alba's doing, are there other things you think would be beneficial for her?
Well, I just spent 45 minutes watching her on YouTube. So
45 minutes. Holy moly.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing other things. I had a few other things to do before.
I was on your background.
Pre-interview research. So
I did watch a couple of movie trailers that came up in between, but no, I think there's some great stuff on YouTube.
But I think it's you really need to be across as much of the different social medias as possible. As you know, this particular medium that we use here. Now Brendan and I have been doing podcasts now for would have to be 4+ years now, but it's always been an audio podcast. So it's only the last few that we've started doing where we're doing it on Zoom with the video. Because some people want to have this option. So we've decided to do that, and also the audio is extracted from it. So I think if you can do as many different areas as possible to cover those needs, I suppose with what you're doing, it's probably beneficial when there's more visual than just audio. Have you found that? Yeah,
well, and I guess I truly believe that it's also a personality thing. Like, I am a talker. I love talking, and I feel very comfortable in front of a camera. So that is easier for me to sit down and write a newsletter or an article. So it's one of those things as well. I find very easy to do videos on Instagram, on Facebook, or for YouTube, or repurpose them. So I also think there's a preference there. There's people that absolutely don't want to be in front of the camera. So I guess for them, that is a challenge.
Yeah, and is that the sort of stuff you would work through with people? You help them get over those issues of
absolutely. Yeah,
fantastic.
It's all about becoming visible, and that is a huge element of developing your personal brand. You need to own who you are and be unapologetic about sharing it. So how to overcome those fears of being judged, because in the end, that is the reason why we don't do things. That if we put it out there, what are people going to say? So I help them with the mindset of it, to understanding what is the fear, and also to creating an image and a presence that have them feeling confident to show up and share what they have to share.
Yeah, I heard a quote, I'm pretty sure it was from Jack Canfield, the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul and various other books, was, "It's none of my business what other people think of me."
Exactly. That's exactly, I was telling a client that 5 minutes ago.
Ah, there you go.
They are making judgment. People are making judgments of you at all times anyway. So why would you hide? And second, why are you paying attention to what they think? And for me is because I put myself out there quite a bit, and I'm quite vulnerable with what I share. I share outfits, I share my fears, aren't you scared of people judging me? I am more focused on what I have to share. What their opinion of me, none of my business. Yeah,
and it's a fantastic attitude, and I try to be that way as often as I can. Occasionally it gets to me sometimes, but
when you're sharing, of course, your outfits, is that what you're saying?
What was that, Brendan?
When you're sharing your outfits, is that?
When I'm sharing my outfits, yes. Hey, look, I can dress snazzy, Brendan. My
don't
wife
doubt
and
that
daughter
either.
always make fun of me of my different selections of colognes and things that I have. I like to experiment, so I'm always getting jived on about that. So anything else you would like to ask Alba at the moment, Brendan, while we have her presence?
I think this is great. Like, yeah, I mean, I think the book Psycho-Cybernetics talks about your inner perception of yourself and how that kind of manifests in the world like a thermostat. Like we adjust our lives to kind of match our perception of ourselves. So I'd like to tell us more about that. Like when you start working with someone, how do you work with someone? Do you do it online, in person? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like so curious about this. Like,
yes. Sure. Yeah. So I when I started my business, I was working just with clients one-on-one. But as I evolved, I realized, well, this is something I can help people all over the world. So I actually have clients. Probably 30% of my clients are here in Perth, and then 70% are global, absolutely in every single continent. So we work through Zoom as we're doing today. And the way it works, I work in a setting of a 4-month program, just because I believe 4 months is the amount of time that you can actually transform your mindset, own your personality and who you are, see yourself in a different light, and learn how to communicate and how to look the best. So it's kind of like I work like that. I do 4 nightly sessions, and I have a combination. As I said, I have a 7-pillar system. So I do a combination of teaching, mentoring, and coaching. So it's and a little bit of consulting as well at the same time. So I have a system that people can access when they're working with me. So they get the workbooks, the videos, and then we use the sessions to do the teaching, mentoring, and coaching. And everything can be done online or in person, all of the elements.
I think that's the amazing thing. And you think about the reach that someone like you or I have nowadays in the world of using tools like Zoom, which makes it so easy. I mean, I've been using Skype for 14 years, and that's, not dissimilar, but I think Zoom is a better version of
absolutely
for this type of process that we're doing. And it's amazing what you can do. And say you've got clientele on every continent, so that was not possible a long time
absolutely
ago.
Well, one cool thing that happens to me is I had a client in Sydney that we worked for like a few months, and then it was funny that I ended up going to Los Angeles, an event that she was attending, and we met in person there. And I'm like, that's just completely crazy. Or clients that I have never met in person, but you just really get to know them so well. And or eventually they come or we meet somewhere, and it's like, so it's amazing what we can create. And also opening our minds to understand that now we do have access to the world completely.
You are only limited by your imagination, I believe.
Absolutely.
So that's fantastic. So now we've been chatting to you for about half an hour now, and
already
yes, went very quickly. And I'm just thinking, have you got any workshops coming up, public workshops that you're doing, or online courses that you wanted to talk about that you can do?
Absolutely. So if you guys go to my website, so I have, and you will see it on my main page, there is a workshop in Perth for women. And it's all about helping you develop your personal brand. That is coming on the 15th of September. And also I have a section of online courses and free resources. So you can get started on your journey to develop your personal brand with some tools that I have there. And I also have some online courses that are super, super, super helpful on helping you develop this personal brand. And actually, I'm also open to chat if someone is really interested into creating, going to the next level of their career or professions, and they really are serious about working. You can also book a time to talk to me, and it's also my main page on the website.
Brilliant. Anything else you would like to ask Brendan before we let Alba go back to doing her work?
No, I've learned a lot from YouTube, so I feel like I need to go get a haircut and maybe iron a shirt. I'm wearing a t-shirt, like, put on a proper shirt just to feel a little bit more.
That's all right. You're
I feel guilty, like, after watching the videos.
No, it's only your 20% you're talking about, Brendan. So
and remember, it's you can have a very strong presence and appear to be confident, knowledgeable, and professional. And as I said, the image is just a part of it. But if you have been inspired to have a haircut and wear a nicer shirt, it's also understanding sometimes that how we dress affects how we feel. And that is the important part. You completely stand different, you talk different, you relate to people from a different perception. And sometimes when you actually are thinking, oh, I'm not feeling that I'm not looking that good, that also changes your body language and how you communicate for the bad. So it's kind of doing everything in a way that makes you feel your most confident. So your presence is the strongest when you come across to people.
Yeah. And it is a trap of people who work from home. Like I've spent a lot of time in my home office, and I know Brendan spends the majority of his time there too. You can sometimes get a little bit slack because you're not presenting yourself to the world. You can get into some habits that aren't necessarily great.
Absolutely.
I've been there.
It's always, I always think how you dress affects how you feel. So I also work from home, and I'm not always just with makeup and hair done and perfect, but I do make an effort to at least wear something that makes me feel nice, like I'm feeling good, even if it's not the whole thing. But doing that effort also makes a difference, because then I feel more focused and I feel more like, okay, I'm going to bring my A game here. Whereas if I'm working in my pajamas or too relaxed, and I just take it like a hobby.
Yeah, great point. Easy to fall into when you're self-employed and working from home. So fantastic. I keep looking at you and I keep thinking you've got a flower in your ear, because
yes, I do.
The flowers behind you, they keep sitting right next to you.
Yes, look.
That's funny. I keep going, oh no, that's not right.
Look at your screen. It looks like you have boxes of poppies behind you.
No, it says puppies. It says my
yes.
I've got some empty boxes. I've got to move those. Some empty boxes of shoes. Actually, no, one's got some shoes in it. But yeah, it's not poppies. We're not talking about anything like that.
Poppies, yeah. Poppies.
I thought you said poppies. On that note, thank you for your time, Alba. It was great to catch up with you, and thanks for sharing your information and what you do with us. And if anyone wants to contact you, they can go to albagomez.com.au. We will put the link to your website in the show notes, and we look forward to maybe having you back on the show in the future for a catch up to see what's transpired between now and then. So have a super day. Thank you, Brendan. And we will catch you all soon.
Right. Lovely to meet you, Brendan. Nice to talk to both of you. And bye-bye to everyone.
Okay. Thanks very much. Bye for now.
Bye.